My name is BinBin. I am 35-year-old. I was never loud with my kindness. I did not announce it. I did not ask to be praised for it. I just did what felt right. I listened when people needed to talk. I stayed when others left. I forgave, even when no one asked for forgiveness. I believed kindness was a quiet language. I believed love grew stronger when you gave more of yourself. And for a long time, I truly believed that if I was patient enough, gentle enough, and understanding enough, love would stay. There was warmth in my heart, but slowly, there was emptiness in my chest. I think I was born a giver. Even as a child, I learned to be the strong one. When others cried, I stayed calm. When my family worried, I said, "It's okay." When something broke, I tried to fix it. Helping people made me feel useful. It made me feel like I had a place in the world. I learned early that being needed felt close to being loved. So I became dependable. The one who remembered birthdays. The one who checked in first. The one who carried extra weight so others could rest. And I was proud of that. I was proud that people trusted me. I was proud that they came to me when they were tired, confused, or hurting. I told myself, this is who I am. A kind person. A strong person. Someone who gives without counting. When I met them, the relationship felt safe. Not loud, not dramatic. Just calm and warm, like sitting next to someone who understands you. At the beginning, they noticed my kindness. They thanked me for small things. They smiled when I helped. They said they felt lucky to have me. Those words meant everything to me. Small gestures felt big. A message asking if I got home safe. A quiet moment where they listened. A simple "I appreciate you." I felt chosen. I felt needed. I felt like my giving had finally found a home. For the first time, I thought, maybe this is what love looks like. But love does not always change loudly. Sometimes it changes so slowly that you blame yourself for noticing. At first, it was nothing serious. They stopped saying thank you as often. They expected me to understand without explanation. They leaned on me more, but reached for me less. I told myself they were tired. I told myself love grows quiet with time. I told myself this was normal. So I gave more. I listened longer. I forgave faster. I stayed quiet when something hurt me. When they were upset, I apologized, even when I didn't know what I had done wrong. When they pulled away, I moved closer. I believed that if I gave enough, the distance would disappear. But it didn't. Slowly, my kindness stopped being something special. It became something expected. My support was no longer seen as love. It was seen as something that would always be there. If I was tired, no one noticed. If I was hurt, no one asked. If I stayed silent, no one wondered why. There were no fights, no raised voices, no clear moment where I could say, this is where it broke. That was the hardest part. The betrayal was quiet. They didn't hurt me with words. They hurt me with absence. They forgot to check in. They stopped asking how I felt. They took my kindness and kept walking. And I stayed. Because leaving felt like failure. Because staying felt like loyalty. Because I had built my identity on being the one who never gives up. I started to feel invisible. Not unseen by the world, but unseen by the person who mattered most to me. I was there for everything. The stress, the bad days, the emotional weight. But when I needed comfort, I learned to carry it alone. I told myself, this is what love asks of you. I told myself, strong people don't complain. I told myself, if I leave, it means I didn't love enough. So I stayed quiet. I stayed kind. I stayed loyal. Even when it hurt. One night, I sat alone in silence. Nothing dramatic had happened. No argument. No goodbye. Just a deep tiredness in my chest. I thought about all the times I showed up. All the moments I stayed soft when I wanted to scream. All the apologies I gave just to keep the peace. And for the first time, a question came to my mind. A question I had been avoiding for a very long time. If I stop giving, if I stop fixing, if I stop being the strong one, will anyone stay? The question scared me because I didn't know the answer. The breaking moment did not look like a movie. There was no dramatic goodbye, no shouting, no doors slammed. It was small, almost invisible. That's why it hurt so much. It was a normal day. The kind of day where life feels heavy but familiar. I had already done what I always did, helped, fixed, remembered, carried. I went out of my way for them again, not because they demanded it, but because I knew they would struggle without me. I thought, at least they will see it this time. I thought, at least they will feel grateful. But when I gave them what they needed, they barely looked up. No real thank you. No warmth in their voice. Just a quick response, like my effort was nothing. Like my kindness was part of the furniture. Always there, always useful. Never noticed. And then they moved on with their day. That was it. And in that quiet moment, something inside me finally stopped reaching. It wasn't anger. It wasn't hate. It was something colder and clearer. It was the sound of my heart saying, enough. After that day, I didn't change into a different person overnight. I didn't become cruel. I didn't become hard. I simply became quiet in a new way. Before, my silence was used to keep peace. Now, my silence was used to protect me. I stopped explaining my feelings because I realized they were not listening anyway. I stopped trying to be understood by someone who only understood what they needed. I still did my responsibilities. I still showed basic care. But I stopped chasing love with sacrifice. And for the first time, I felt the loneliness clearly. Not the lonely feeling of being single, but the lonely feeling of being with someone and still feeling alone. I would sit beside them and feel like a ghost. I looked back and started to see the truth, piece by piece. I saw how much I gave, how much I carried, how often I made myself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. I grieved quietly. Not only the relationship, but the version of me who tried so hard to earn love. That version of me was always tired, always worried, always hoping the next act of kindness would finally be enough. I felt sad for her, because she believed love was something you could buy with pain. In the stillness, I began to understand something that was hard to admit. My kindness was real. But sometimes, my kindness was also fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of being left, fear that if I was not useful, I would not be loved. I didn't want to see it before. I wanted to believe I was only generous, only patient, only loyal. But deep inside, I had been trying to prove my worth. I had been saying, without words, please don't leave. Look how good I am. Look how much I give. And that broke my heart. Because love should not feel like begging. Kindness should not feel like disappearing. When I finally saw it, I didn't blame myself with anger. I spoke to myself softly. I said, you did what you learned to do. You tried to keep love alive the only way you knew. And then I said something I had never truly said before. But I am allowed to matter too. The hardest part wasn't realizing the truth. The hardest part was choosing what to do with it. Because when you've been the giver for so long, stepping back feels like cruelty. It feels selfish. It feels wrong. I felt guilty even thinking about my own needs. But I also felt something else. Relief. Like I had been holding my breath for years, and my lungs were finally allowed to open. So, I made a decision. Not in anger. Not to punish them. But to save myself. I started with small boundaries. I didn't rush to fix every problem. I didn't respond to every emotional storm. I didn't apologize just to keep the peace. And when they noticed the change, it was strange. They didn't ask, are you okay? They asked, why are you different? That question told me everything. Because they didn't miss me. They missed the comfort my kindness gave them. And in that moment, I understood something painful but important. Some people don't value your heart. They value your service. One chose myself. Maybe I stepped back. Maybe I walked away. Whatever it wasn't loud. It was calm. It was me saying, I will not betray myself to keep someone close. It hurt. Of course it hurt. Letting go is still loss, even when it's the right choice. I had moments where I doubted myself. Moments where I wanted to return to the old role, because it was familiar. But every time I imagined going back, I felt that old emptiness again. And I knew I couldn't live there anymore. Healing didn't come like a sudden sunrise. It came slowly, like light entering a room, little by little. I learned a new kind of kindness, a kindness that included me. I learned that giving is beautiful, but only when it doesn't cost you your peace. I learned to rest without guilt. I learned to say no without shaking. I learned that love should feel mutual, not perfect, not always easy, but balanced, warm on both sides. And yes, I forgave, not because they deserved all of me again, but because I didn't want to carry bitterness inside my body. Forgiveness, for me, was not reopening the door. It was closing the wound. I forgave them, and I did not forget what it taught me. If you are listening to my story, I want you to hear this clearly. Kindness is not weakness, but kindness without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. You can have a soft heart and still protect it. You can forgive and still walk away. You can love people deeply and still say, I will not be taken for granted. Because real love does not ask you to disappear. Real love does not punish you for having needs. And if someone only stays when you are giving everything, that is not love. That is use. Today, I am still kind. But now, my kindness has a home. It lives inside and for the first time, I don't feel afraid of the question that once broke me. Because now I know the answer. If I stop giving to people who don't see me, I will still stay. I will stay with myself.